What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today, BTC USD. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. It is the 15th day of September, and here we are at about $114.7 thousand. We've had a bit of a wicked day when it comes to volatility, right? We've moved all the way up to $116.8 thousand thereabouts, all the way down to 114.6K. Here we are at about 114.8K right now, 7.5, whatever. 10 hours, 20 minutes left on this day, the 15th of September. And this goes against what I was thinking would happen, right? I very much do believe, by the way, that the low is in. I don't believe that I wouldn't be surprised if we went lower. And in part, that's what we've been talking about over the past few days. But I just want to readdress what we were talking about on the way up here, right? We flipped bullish on this day here because you're breaking out undeniably. It became a lot more likely that would continue going higher. And even at these last few days where we've been held up, I was expecting that we'd get some kind of a pullback. We've talked about $114,000 and below. You could go to 113.5K. You could even go to 112.5K and find support. But first, I thought we would get to this golden ratio or even the 786 at the highest before seeing any kind of correction. So the fact that we're correcting ahead of time was not part of the expectation. I thought that we would continue to move up going into the 16th and the 17th. The fact that we're dumping now, I say dumping, we're down 0.5%, but the fact that we're dropping now is it was not part of the game plan. There's still a lot of time between now and the 17th. Maybe we do come back up and we pump 2 days like this in a row. If we have that, we've seen a day similar to this right here, and then 2 days later we moved up just like this. If we have 2 days in a row like this day here, that last Wednesday and last Thursday, we could absolutely be at the golden ratio, if not higher, by the announcement on the 17th for the FOMC. We absolutely could be up there. But I want to look at the short-term stuff and see what's going on. Again, as I've said over the past few days, we likely will have a pullback that takes us below $114,000. That's fine. That's totally fine. We're just doing it ahead of time, what I was thinking we would do. I think it makes sense. Sometimes you do find resistance just below the golden ratio instead of actually hitting it. I really did think we'd get in there, but sometimes there's so much immense selling pressure that you just don't get there. If we put a line right there at the price, just below the golden ratio here, right at that high point, you can see that we had closing resistance here. We had support right there. We had support right here as well. It's a semi-significant area, or I wouldn't even say semi. I would say it's a pretty significant area relative to this whole consolidation phase here. We're finding resistance, I think, ahead of time based on that, right? And then also the anticipation of the golden ratio. Anybody who was going to sell here, maybe they're just selling here ahead of time because of all these other factors going in or that are in play. So selling ahead of time, probably buy back at about 113.5K. But again, let's look at the short-term stuff and see what we can come up with. We're already at the lows of the day as of now. We've actually just hit new lows. So let's look at the 1 hour time frame here. 1 hour time frame. A little bit of volume picking up as you're dropping down. Okay, so that validates the move a little bit. Okay, volume's picking up here now on this 1 hour candle, but we're not really pushing lower. Not yet. We got 16 minutes left. Let's see how it goes. We got a whole nother hour. We are closing lower, in all fairness. Maybe we are pushing lower. Maybe we're starting to. We had a nice wick all the way up here, man. I remember I was looking at the charts probably like 20 minutes ago, and we were all the way up here, and we ate it all the way back, and now we're at lower prices. It's crazy. Very volatile on the way up and on the way down, and even here in this little range, we're being somewhat volatile. If we're looking at our indicators, it's a pretty neutral reading that we're seeing on the RSI. It's nothing too dramatic. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. I'm like, oh man, did I thought I muted my mic. It's not too dramatic, but at the moment, I suppose you are taking a more bearish stance than a bullish stance. Stochastics look a little bit bearish as well, and the MACD here, rejecting the zero line, that looks bearish as well. It would make me think that we continue to go lower. And again, 113.5 to 112.5K would be a significant area to find support at. It's totally fine if we go down there. From a low to a high here, we'd want to close the day above 113.5K though. We don't want to go below it. 114.5K right now. The next target area I think would be about 114.3 to 113.6. Anything and everything in between that zone. The fact that you went below the 100 here and you're finding resistance at 886, I'd be very convinced that we go down there. Because this is a smaller fib range, it's very possible that we go even lower than that. We could see, maybe at the most. I don't think that we see 111.7K, but 112.5K, something around there could happen. And again, if we get down there, what we want a proper reaction. We want to have a nice bullish reaction. something that, you know, similar to this but to the upside, right? Where we're not down there for too long, because you want to close above 113.5k. This gives me a little bit of faith that this area here might be where we find support, but I would think that we have lower to go. And then of course here, last 14 minutes, last 15 minutes of the 1 hour, we are building volume, we are pushing lower. It seems as though this lower movement is going to be substantiated. If you look at this on the 4 hour time frame here, clearly a breaking of structures going on. The stochastics, because it's the only indicator that loaded, is looking pretty damn bearish, rejecting the 50 after getting bounced off the oversold zone, getting into the oversold zone again. The MACD building bearish momentum and building it, not just again building it, getting the deep red, but also having lower lows here. We've got 2 hours left in this 4 hour candle. I would think that we do continue to go down. The RSI is in an area to find support. So if we come down over the next 2 hours and 14 minutes, but we also come back up and close here or higher, that could be the low. We could find the low within the next 2 hours and 14 minutes. I mean, it's possible, right? This thing's been very volatile. We could literally come down over the next hour down to here, and then the following hour come back up, and then we close the 4 hour time frame here, leaving a big wick behind, just like we did up here, and they continue to move up by the end of the day. It's very possible that we find support today and continue to move higher, but I don't know. Maybe it's a longer, drawn-out process. You know, it doesn't have to be fast. I would just like it to be fast. The faster, the better. If it's slow, that doesn't mean anything worse. It's just it takes more time, right? Imagine you get from point A to point B, but along the way you have to have a correction. Would you like that correction to last 1 week, or would you like it to last 1 day, right? Ideally, 1 day you can get to point B quicker. Anyways, all the way down here to $113.3 thousand, that's where this prior area of resistance is, prior area of support is. If we shave it up a little bit, you know, right there, 113.4K, something like that. I really wouldn't be surprised in the least if we got down there. Looking at this from a relative low to a relative high perspective, that's right there around our 382. I really do think we could get down to, if this is the high, if this is where we're going to decide to correct from, if we get below 114.3K, if we see prices below 114.3K, then there's little doubt in my mind that we are going to go below 113K, okay? But if not, if we do hold support right here, if we get a proper reaction right here, the 236 can provide support, and it has provided support for Bitcoin recently. You know, depending on how this 4 hour closes, depending on what we do over the next couple of hours, we really could absolve ourselves of going lower. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is it here, but looking at the 1 hour time frame, I would think that we go lower. Looking at the 4 hour, I would think we go lower as well. So I'm not really amused by any kind of short-term volatility. Again, though, confirm that we're going lower. Get below $114.3 thousand. Just get below there. You don't even need to close below there. Get below there, and the likelihood, the probability that we go below 113K goes up tremendously. Okay. I was checking on this earlier. Yes. Okay. Cool. I was just making sure. I'm like, do we have? Is it a weekend day? Is it like a long weekend? I never know. Sometimes I forget when those long weekends are, but it's a Monday, and the stock market's actually opening up. We're opening up on the stock market. Maybe that's why Bitcoin's pulling back a little bit. I don't know, because that probably just happened recently. No, Bitcoin was moving down while that happened. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how that happens? Anyways, 4 hour time frame looks bearish. 1 hour time frame looks bearish. But you're in areas where you could expect to find support on the 4 hour. Okay, let's make that clear. Daily time frame here coming up above the zero. The daily looks bullish on the MACD, bullish on the stochastics, relatively bullish on the RSI, but really you're just kind of neutral. And you're where you're rejecting right now could provide lower readings, lower prices. You could come down to the 50. You could come down even lower than that. That area in the RSI would provide support, probably somewhere in this prior area of resistance again, between about 113.5K to 112.5K. It's very possible that we go below 114K. It's very possible that we even go below 113K. But when I say below 113, I mean just barely, just barely. I don't believe that this is a lower high in the sense of all this. I mean, right now it is technically a lower high, but I don't believe that we're going to get a lower low as a result of this. I think that we will form a higher low, and then we'll continue to rally higher. Okay. And maybe we keep moving down into the FOMC meeting. Maybe it is something that we move down into, and then once it happens, then that's whenever we move up, right? Something like that. We find support right here. I mean, it looks perfect, and then we got the trajectory. I mean, it's pretty perfect. Might be exactly what we do. If we're looking at this here, just because it lines up, all the dots connect, doesn't mean that that's how it works, right? The daily indicators are predominantly bullish, right? But could cool for a second, and that's fine if they do. You know, sometimes in stochastics we get out of it a little bit, then we come back into it, out of it a little bit, and that promotes growth. Okay, so just because we're out of it a little bit now doesn't mean we're bearish. We'd be bearish if we had both of these indicators, both the oscillators, outside of the overbought area here, which we're not at the moment. Weekly time frame. If we look at this, the weekly time frame is bouncing off the 50. We are red to start the week, which you guys know I love to see. It's good to start the week off to a red note. 6 days, 11 hours left in this week. Bouncing off the 50 here. The goal is to close this week green because we want to continue this bounce. We want to get into the overbought zone. There's a whole slew of good things that come from getting into the overbought zone on the weekly time frame. Stochastics look bullish in that sense, and so does the MACD. Really, you know, if we can close this week green, then we're not building bearish momentum, right? That's what we want to avoid doing. We want this to be a short-lived experience. We don't want this to be a multi-month experience like it has been every other time that we've crossed red in this bull market. Okay, 114.7K now, 112.5, 113.5K later, and then we should be moving up higher to prices like 140K, 160K, 180K ultimately by the end of October. That's my expectation. By the end of the year, we should be dramatically higher, fantastically higher. I think that we'll see prices at $200,000 to $250,000, something in that area. Time will tell. We'll see how it goes. But I don't really have anything else that I want to say. I think I've said it all. If you guys like the video, hit the like button, subscribe. I want to check in on the ribbon again real quick. We've been checking in on this here and there. Let's just look at this because we're in a kind of critical moment with the daily ribbon. We definitely don't want to come back into contact with this weekly ribbon, right? We don't want to do that, because if we do, that would promote a kind of consolidation phase like we've seen before. If we understand, guys, if we come back into this ribbon, we likely would consolidate for months, and we likely would go down, I would think, below $100,000 again. That would happen. It would kind of become undeniable at that point. Okay, it'd be really weird behavior if we came back into the ribbon and then we bounced again, right? If you bounce here, you got to bounce. But if you come back into it, it's kind of like quicksand, right? It's like here you bounced, okay, cool, but you came back into it, so what'd you do? You went below the ribbon. And even then, this deep kind of interaction should have told us that we were going to go below it to begin with. But let's look at the daily time frame. This is the real one that I wanted to look at. Okay, yes. So we talked about this, right? We've talked about this over the past few days as well. I know we have. You can watch any of the videos from like the last 3 days. We've checked in on this every single damn day. The ribbon is, you know, false cross to the downside, coming back up to cross to the upside. Oftentimes, when we get the cross, you actually come back down and you'll touch into that cross. So that might be what we're doing here, right? As the next couple days go on, it's the 16th, it's the 17th, the yellow line will come up and cross above. We might come down and touch that line right there, and that's at like 113.5K. It's pretty perfect. We can go a little bit below it. It doesn't have to be like a direct bounce off of it. It can be like this, right? That's fine. It could be like this. That's fine, right? But something a little bit below 114K, if not even below 113K, is to be expected, okay? But again, and I hate to backtrack here, but we're just going to talk about all the talking points, okay? If we don't go, in the weird case that this is just some awesome volatility here, low to high, if we don't see prices below $114.37 thousand, $114,372, if we don't see prices below there at all, it's not just a closing basis, but at all, if we don't get below there today, if we're bouncing and then we come back up above 116K by the end of the day, or at any point before we're going below the 236, if we do that, if we hold this area as support and we're moving up, then everything I've said as far as going lower is off the table. It's not off the table entirely. We might move up first to 117K, 120K, and then come back down to those levels. But it would be off the table until we see those higher targets. So depending on what we do here. I mean, we could be experiencing some massive volatility. I'm a bit surprised. You know, the 1 hour time frame is looking pretty bearish there, but we're all the way back up here to 114.8K. You went as low as 114.3K. So you've had a nice little bounce off this area. And the area that we're bouncing off of again, it is that, I'm going to delete this one just because, and maybe this one here so that it's easier to see, is that 236. The 236 right there, that's what we're bouncing off of. And that's a pretty powerful signal. Whenever you do that, it's really hard. It's actually very difficult to hold the 236 as support. You only do that in powerful moves. And if we do this here, that could very much call for a powerful move to the upside, okay? Which again, maybe we go to 120K before we see any kind of consolidation, but we'll know we'll know by the end of the day. You'll probably know by the time you watch this video. Again, I've given you the parameters to look for. At this moment, I'm sticking with the downside call because that's what the indicators call for, but be aware, Bitcoin's been tricky lately. We could absolutely find support here and move up higher, and if that happens, cool. Get above 116K, all the downside targets we talked about today, they're invalidated, or at the very least, they're put off until another day. Does that make sense? Maybe we'll continue to move up into the FOMC. I expect a directional shift to happen on the 17th. So if we're moving up into it, we'll probably drop. If we're moving down into it, we'll probably pump. Whatever the case may be. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.